Tonight on the agenda, we have two items. First, conversation relevant to Norrell Annex, and then second, a discussion pertinent to property, a part of a parcel of Martin Luther King Middle School. But we're going to begin with the Norrell Annex, and Bobby Hathaway, our Director of Facilities, was so kind to put together some information for discussion. Bobby, would you like to go ahead and initiate the conversation, please?
Sure, Jonathan. The property is located at 201 West Graham. It's a two-story brick building constructed in the building that we used in 1954. It's 17,708 square feet. The conditions in the building related to facilities, it has asbestos challenges. The HVAC is in poor condition. The roof is 23 years old and needs to be replaced. The valuation is $3.2 million. And then the average utility costs, we had about 22 million, but I mean 22,000, but we've got that less than that now because we've basically turned off everything we could. And it's sitting on 1.5 acres of land.
Thank you, Bobby. And I saw a note from Kimberly. I think I saw a note from Michelle Hudasco as it relates to the picture.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that we were talking about the annex and not the building. That appeared to be a picture, if I'm not mistaken, of the Norrell School versus the annex, or am I wrong there?
Norrell Elementary is a long, narrow building. The Norrell Annex is the two-story structure. So that's what we should be talking about, the two-story Norrell Annex.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And was the information you shared about the annex or the building?
Yeah, it is about the annex.
Okay.
So Bobby, thank you for that. And Michelle, thank you. Questions for Bobby Hathaway? And/or comments, observations?
I have a question. He may have said that. This is Cheryl speaking. Okay, I see Bobby. This building, you may have already stated this because I went out and came back in. This building, the annex building, is not being, I know at one time we had a couple of offices in that particular building. Is that building currently being used to house any products, nutritional services, or any offices there as in the past?
No, the last time the building was used was about 3.5 years ago by School Nutrition. And they had an unfortunate shooting in the building, which they vacated. And since then, the building has been boarded up and no one has been in the building.
All right. Thank you so much. That helps greatly.
Jonathan, can I pull it up on the screen? Because I'm not very familiar with it.
Please. Yeah, go ahead. Please.
But I pulled it up on Google. Maybe we can all kind of reference it.
And while he's pulling it up, Bobby, what kind of practical limitations do we have relevant to subdividing that property? Any thoughts on how we would proceed with that? Or
it pretty much takes up the block that's there. So I mean, you know, the building itself, I mean, it's that entire block, and I think he's got a picture right there. I mean, so to me, it's a valuable piece of property, and there's a lot of potential there.
Right. And for folks that may not be super familiar with the site, and you can kind of see it there in the picture, but you have all single family residences that immediately adjoin the property. And Bob, you said it's 1.5 acres. Is that right?
Yes.
Jonathan, if I may, so how do you want us to move forward on this in terms of conversation? Because I'm in full favor of surplus and giving it back to the city, and the deed, quick deed or whatever. Reason being, number one, as you just stated, it is in the midst of, I used to live on the other side of that area. So years ago, this was a very prominent area, very prominent area. This was the main school is around the corner, and this one was the annex added. So as we all know, things change, but as you see, they were huge, nice houses over 3, 4, 5,000 square feet, and then some, most of them. And most of the people in that area were working people. This was during the 50s and 60s. So I wasn't in Richmond, but I know the history, okay? But to make a long story short, moving forward, this is a piece of property that I'm sure people in the neighborhood, that's an opportunity for more houses, which means more children for us. So however you want to unfold, I am in full favor of however it is given back to the city. I don't know how Paul feels about that, but it's truly urban blight sitting in that beautiful neighborhood as it is. Grass cut, no trash, older people there now, very few younger people. If they are, they're renting. But that neighborhood at one time was, and right now it's a lot of young folks trying to move in and to keep it as it is. So it's a well-kept neighborhood. But I'm in full favor of moving forward, surplusing. Bobby, how do you feel about that?
I'm total agreement with that, Ms. Burke.
I concur with that. I think the idea of subdividing it could be helpful. The form is really messed up. I mean, there used to be alleys in there, and now this is half parking lot and then kind of an awkwardly situated building.
Right.
So, I mean, either way, I just think maybe as a recommendation, I think is, you know, if a similar kind of mega structure gets put there with a lot of parking, it's not going to help the neighborhood as much as mirroring the form of what has been growing up around there.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Could somebody give me some history about the main building? What's going on there?
Okay. Bobby?
Good question.
Yeah. Is he going to answer?
You talking about the main building?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So, I mean, the annex itself was put there in the 54, yeah, it was 54 is when it was built there, but there was a building there prior to that was built in the early 1914, but has been removed, which is no longer there. But, you know, as far as the history goes, it was formerly Barton Heights or Tharp's School, and it was acquired by the annexation in 1914. And then it was known as Barton Heights School then, in memory of George Thorpe.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was killed in the Indian Massacre in like 1622. And when, let's see, when the school became available to the African Americans in September of 1950, it was renamed Albert V. Norrell.
Yes.
A well-respected citizen for the leader of Navy Hill and Booker T. Washington schools.
He was the first public education, I believe, first public teacher in African American descent in the city of Richmond. His family still lives in the city of Richmond and on the outskirts. So they are, and that, remember when we were renaming Stewart Elementary, because this site is closed, the family asked that we continue that name, but he was the first public, it's a lot of history there. But Ms. Rizzi, were you also asking about the other building around the corner, the other building?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's that one as well.
So my apology, but that building is actually being used by some of the RPS staff over there. We have safety and security out of the building. And then we have like some driver's ed staff and some other educational team members over there.
Okay, thank you. But no, I also appreciate the history lesson here about this site. That's important to know.
Paul McClellan, are you any thoughts as it relates to the city's perspective on zoning, for example, on that property?
Yeah, well, I think that this is another site because it's embedded in the neighborhood with single family housing, and it's, you know, only 2 blocks from the park, a wonderful Battery Park. I think it has a lot of potential for multifamily or single family housing combination. Maybe somebody might want to keep the existing building, rehab it into units, and then maybe add some lots around the perimeter. So I think it has a lot of opportunity for some mixed income housing or affordable housing.
If we were sort of to be transparent, I concur with everything that's been said and what how Ms. Burke encouraged us to dispose of the property. It seems to me that this could be a priority property for the city. Is that a fair assessment, Paul?
That's correct. I think we would have to get it added to our biennial real estate strategy. And I know there are some opportunities to amend that plan in the next 2 years. So once, I think we would wait until we got the deed and got the deed recorded, and then we would look at the possibility of amending that plan.
Thank you, sir. What other questions do we have for Bobby Hathaway relevant to Norrell Annex?
Question, and I don't mean to dominate, I've had a long day, but Bobby, in the Cop Springs building, are there any empty rooms in that building? I know that they use it for preschool, something, 2 or 3 different offices in the Cop Springs in the West End. Are there any vacant spaces or rooms?
So we do have some vacant classrooms over there, and we're actually working with Mildred Deloach and Tracy Epps' team to, I think, find some additional space for some team members over there.
Okay, the reason I was asking is that we could also do away with the other Norrell building and move those people to another site. But if there's something already working there, just to keep from paying the light bills and the water bills,
Right.
utilities. So, but you're stating that they're looking at something else there, because that is a beautiful building, Clock Springs is. Well, okay, thank you.
But
Thank you.
To your point, Cheryl, I mean, I'm just looking at the square footage, and that's 42,000 square feet over there. That's a pretty significant building. And Bobby,
Yeah.
am I right that that's sitting on almost 10 acres? Is that right?
Yeah, Clark Springs, because it has a big sports complex over there for athletic fields and stuff. So yeah, that's correct.
And it's in the backyard of VCU. We used to, when I taught there, we used to walk to VCU at least once a week. So when I said we are students for the exposure. So that's prime property, but I hope that's a building that we can hold on to for many reasons.
Yes, as Bobby suggested, we're working on some new and exciting plans for Clark Springs. So that is not one we want to tee up for surplus.
Excellent.
And Bobby, Michelle, the Norrell School at 2120 Fendel, how many people are working in there? Do we know how many persons approximately are in there? You referenced safety officers.
The Head Start team was also moved out of Ruffin Road into that site, and that, along with Clark Springs, is a place that, as Bobby mentioned, we're working to rethink some of our central office staff as our space in City Hall is becoming a bit tight, and so are looking to continue to maximize the Norrell school space and the Clark Springs space. So probably by the fall, the number of folks there will have expanded beyond what's there now.
Thank you, Michelle. Super helpful. What other questions do we have relevant to Norrell Annex? And I'm sorry, I don't mean to limit it to just questions. Any recommendations, observations, etc. Well,
Express that I'm happy to hear that we're keeping Clark Springs. I have to field many questions from people about, okay, what about Clark Springs? You know, people who are interested in building and developing there. So I'm really happy to hear that we're solidly going to keep that school and that property.
Are there any, thank you, Ms. Rizzi. Are there any persons who want to play the role of devil's advocate this evening and advocate for retention of Norrell Annex?
I mean,
Well-
it could be lease if there's some kind of school that wanted to use it. But it doesn't seem like a really strong building being 1 story. So that might be temporary. Or that could be part of
Richard.
disposing of it and then someone else leases it, maybe let them do it.
Yeah,
Give it back to the city.
Being the building is only 17,000 square feet, it just, the odds of finding a school that would, it would have to be a really small school. So
right. That 1.5 acres. What is the average? I'm curious. Does anybody know what the average? Cheryl, you probably know what the average size of the lots are over there.
Oh, that's an old neighborhood, so it's not like it is now. The north side during that era, you had nice lots. So maybe an acre. Don't you think, Bobby? Most of those yards are big backyards. Maybe less than an acre, but near an acre. They're not on top of each other like newer houses are.
I was just looking at some of them. One on the south side of the school is like 1/4 of an acre, and then on the north side, there's smaller lots that are about 16/100ths of an acre.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you go-
an acre is pretty big. It looks big. It's a good size yard.
Yeah.
That's about a
Yeah.
1/4 acre. Yeah.
All right. Well, absent any additional questions and/or conversation, we will. And just as a reminder, I know that I sent out a lot of correspondence about what I'm going to say next, but just as a reminder, we did submit our findings report to the full school board, and that will be deliberated on at the meeting on May the 3rd at 6 p.m. And so there will be a discussion pertinent to that report. And I anticipate that Superintendent Cameras will be making recommendations there too for the school board to consider. So big thanks to everybody who's contributed so much for the last year, more than a year, to get to where we are now. And in what would become the second report, this Norrell Annex will be included there too. But in the interest of time, let's go ahead and convene the second half of our agenda, specifically the discussion pertinent to Martin Luther King Middle School, or better said, a parcel of the Martin Luther King Middle School. Rick Tatnell is joining us this evening. Rick has been working on a project. I don't want to steal his thunder, but it's described as Unity Park. He's by no means a stranger to RPS. He's one of our biggest cheerleaders, champions, and is always thinking creatively at how partner with us. So Rick, I hope I did you justice. Sir, take it away.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with y'all. The image that's in front of you is that's in yellow, is a portion of the property. That entirety is the Martin Luther King Middle School and Preschool. Richmond Public Schools School Board has control over all that's in yellow, and then all the way to Mosby Street currently as a part of the property. My reason for speaking tonight is to hopefully interest the school board in surplusing the land that is currently encompassed in yellow to the city to, I imagine, be offloaded to the Parks and Recreation Department to create what Jonathan mentioned is a park that we're currently naming the Martin Luther King Unity Park, but that would ultimately be, the naming would be something that would be done by the city council. What I'd like to do is give you a little bit of history about how we got here, and then I'm able to answer specific questions from anyone about the ideas. The part of the property that's to the right of the picture, almost a square, which is at the corner of Little Page and Mosby Street. It became an interest of mine soon after the schools were redone, the two MLK schools. And it was really in 2014, I started to take attention to it. And it was because it was just sitting there vacant. Has a nice fence around it. My friend Shady Clark is the pastor up at Eastminster Presbyterian up the way, and they have a fence there that sort of connects between the two properties. But it was something that was just sitting there vacant. And in 2015, I went and talked with Tommy Krantz, who at that point was the COO for Richmond Public Schools. And he defined that RPS had no intentions of building there. If you can see, sort of bisecting the property is a little bit of a gully. I think it's an old sewer system of some sort, although I don't know about the housing that would have ever been there. But ultimately, because of that sewer system and because of the angle of the property, it was determined by Richmond Public Schools through Tommy Krantz that they'd had no intention of building on it, that it wasn't built onable. And so I started thinking about the Martin Luther King Urban Agricultural Center being there. I got involved with some folks at Virginia State University's College of Agriculture, and our idea was to utilize the land in some way towards that end. Towards the end of 2015, early 2016, folks from the Boys and Girls Club suggested that they might have an interest in building a teen center and an East End facility that they were looking to do there. And wondered if, we had been talking with Todd and folks at the Boys and Girls Club about what we were looking to do. And I said, fine. And I started looking then towards the left side of the picture, towards the property that's back and around the outfields of the two baseball fields. And I became aware that that was a better spot, and I was happy to go that way. As it turns out, Todd and Boys and Girls Club realized that they weren't able to build on that property, and they've got some other ideas, including some exciting things that are happening up near Creighton Court. But the drift back to the area back behind the baseball fields became a very powerful idea, and we quickly involved the School of Agriculture down at BSU. Those of you that have remember the old Kevin Costner Field of Dreams movie, well, that's what we were looking to try to do, and that's the idea is that outside of those outfields, we would be looking to do all kinds of urban agriculture, a lot of space, all the way back to the tree line. And so at one point in 2016, we weren't able to bring in a nonprofit to be able to affect all that we were thinking, but Mr. Krantz was ready to lease us the property because it was determined that, at least back there, that the schools were not intending to use it anytime in the near or distant future, that that area was outside of where the schools could, a lot of reasons, including just the time to get back and forth between classes. Over the last couple of years, we've been, continuing to push forward this idea. And one of the issues, and interesting, I think this is obviously maybe a little bit outside of what y'all might have thought you'd be discussing in the Vacant Property Committee. But if you were to go there right now, it's vacant. It's vacant every day, all times of every day. It's really been an extraordinary situation for me. I've literally been promoting for 5.5, almost 6 years, use of this space, and nowhere other than maybe there might be a couple people on the track. There's a couple people walking from Oliver Crossing over to one of the convenience stores. And there might be a person running a dog out in the outfield, but there's no programming, there's nobody using it, and there's a whole lot of reasons why. But one of them is that it is RPS land that RPS doesn't appear to have interest in doing anything with. And because for a long time, this property, which a lot of people don't even recognize and know that these lands are back there. These two baseball fields have lights, they have stands, they have water water fountains. There's a RP or a Parks and Rec building that's one of the old Quonset hut like one that's out at Clark Springs, that's down there. There used to be tennis courts down in the bottom corner of the property near the bridge when it was Mosby Middle School. But it's property, and then there are two full basketball courts also with lights. It has an old but very usable track. The interior field has two uprights. Just amazing bones, but for any number of reasons, it just has not been ever used by Parks and Rec, by nonprofit organizations, and certainly not by Richmond Public Schools. My suggestion is that we have an amazing opportunity with a little bit of a flip of a switch for RPS through the Vacant Property Committee to surplus this land to the city, that it would then be turned into a park that would be overseen by Parks and Rec. And again, we have the idea of it being called the Martin Luther King Unity Park. The Dr. King story is something that's really powerful, that needs to be built upon. We have two murals, one on the bridge, which, by the way, I'm glad this image shows that the land is called Parker Field, and maybe Ms. Burke knows why that is. But I'm not really sure where the Parker Field thing comes in. But one of the issues that I've always had with Google is that it calls the bridge, which is the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Bridge, it calls it the Lee Street Viaduct. And I don't know why. But that's the Martin Luther King Memorial Bridge. And one of the ideas that we've been promoting with this new concept of an MLK Unity Park is actually to do programming underneath the bridge, which I did in the 2019 I Have a Dream Festival. And then also to potentially look at some work that could be done on top of the bridge with views of Chaco Valley from the top up there, again, on the MLK Bridge. But that's the down the road, when this is all a beautiful dream become reality story. The short term is that we have a set of acres of property here with a track and field and a baseball, or two baseball fields with lights, and a soccer and football field, and an acre of land that can be imagined to be something as a community corner. Littlepage and Mosby there, there's people screaming out for experiential opportunities in Mosby and Oliver Crossing and Jefferson Townhomes and Eastview and the New Vision Civic League and up along Fairmount. And as we speak, and without any action, this land will continue to be back there as potential energy instead of kinetic energy. So I'm hoping to inspire and the school board to see value in surplusing this and giving it to the city with requirements and expectations in terms of the programming, but ultimately the benefit, obviously you have an amazing property at Norrell and you should get great monies and lots of benefits from city council and the city for that. In this case, we're not talking about redeveloping it. We're simply enabling the community to use it more, not only the East End community and the RPS community, but the entire community of Richmond.
Rick, thank you. Thank you, sir. Very comprehensive report. Most grateful for that. That was super helpful. What questions do we have for Rick Tatnall?
So I remember running track a bit in middle school. The kids don't get outside, and I mean, I know they're not going to do it all the time, but they would still be able to use that property just as much if they needed that for PE.
Definitely. No, I think that actually, Richard, it would become more used. We need to program it, and there's a lot of reasons. Certainly safety is one of the things that pops into mind, although there really hasn't been any negative safety issues, but it's mostly that I think that the neighborhood specifically around it have never really considered it as part of their neighborhood because it was school property. And the nonprofits and the schools didn't program it. And so it just sort of sat there. But the track is, maybe it's going to be used as a cycling track. We've been talking with the Richmond Cycling Corps, which is, they have their offices up on Fairmount. and that maybe they might look to do something around this property like they've done around the backside of Armstrong and Fairfield Court Elementary. But there's significant opportunities for Richmond Public Schools, and particularly MLK Middle and Preschool, to define how they'd like to use it because it's ready there to be used.
Thank you, Rick and Richard. See, Michelle Hudasco had a question, and then Miss Stephanie Rizzi.
I'll defer to Miss Rizzi.
Okay. I just had some questions about, I'm curious about the relationship that this will have with the school. I mean, I'm sure that the kids at MLK would really appreciate, some interaction with nature, similar to what John B. Carey has done with their eco campus, which, by the way, is amazing. Are there going to be opportunities for like engagement with the students and nature?
Ms. Rizzi, that's really the core element from my perspective. We literally want to create what we're calling the MLK Urban Agriculture Center, working with the Virginia State University folks. And MLK's specialty is STEM. That's the new plan. And I think that we have an ability to create an agricultural center that factors in directly to the teaching and the learning that you want your students at MLK Middle to get in a STEM perspective. We've gotten Virginia State, Dr. Leonard Gathinji has been my partner with this since 2016. He's done soil testing. He's met with the science teachers at MLK. He's presented to the students there. And obviously we've been away for a couple of years since all that went down, but it's all ready to restart. And we would be looking at this and I would suggest, and I expect that Parks and Rec is going to be completely supportive, that this be in part created to support the STEM education that you want to have at MLK, so that it becomes a magnet school for its ability to train with the fact that it has all this outdoors right nearby.
Okay, thank you. And I had a couple others. So you plan to keep the track and the baseball fields as they are and the basketball courts?
I am just some guy who lives in the East End and have no controls. So ultimately that would be up to Parks and Rec.
Your vision? So.
Yes, ma'am. No, I think with the possibility of a repurposing, maybe the baseball fields become kickball fields, but they have lights that work. We've addressed some issues that are out there right now about some flooding with the way that the water flows across the property. And those are things that we've been dealing with DPU and DPW on. But those are for recreation specialists greater than me to figure out how to utilize those fields. But again, I think that it's very possible that they'll all get repurposed in different ways, but still used as they are as they're being presented. We want to do a tot lot. We've been presenting to the community a lot of ways for them to get involved in what they'd like to have there, because there's just so much space. And there's definitely room for a tot lot, for picnic tables and grills, and maybe a shelter or two. It has a significant capacity for support. We've also been working closely with Richmond Police Department and Richmond Sheriff's Department. Sheriff's Department and the jail is right down the way. John Harris and the folks at the Community Workforce Development Program, working with Chris Felke and the Department of Parks and Rec. They're right down the way down there at the Annie Giles Center. And so there's a way that we hope to be able to involve them in the process. So I think it's an opportunity not only for the community at large to be able to benefit from the space, but it's also a way for the community to participate in the recreation of this space, training for urban agriculture and landscape design and other things, which we have so much room for out there. And what we had been working with with the Virginia State University was to put a greenhouse, cooling station, turn a farmer's market type of concept. There's water and power available right from the building there. So it has the capacity to start to do that immediately, and then to start to get folks to consider what could be.
Yeah. Okay. I just really like to see some deep engagement with the existing community, especially because I know that there's some kids there that don't get to be in nature very often. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Rick, just a quick question as far as the logistics of if you take this outer band of the fields to develop it, I assume you have to clear some of these trees.
We wouldn't be developing it. It would stay exactly as it is.
Oh, okay. So you can do
Um,
urban farming within the footprint of the trees?
Yes, sir. And within the tree part, there actually is an opportunity for a trail. We'd like to think we can get Parks and Rec trail programming in there for both a walking and a bike trail that can go through the property down along Coulter and then down 18th Street. There's a lot of bicycle lanes on all the roads around there, including 18th Street, up Fairfield Avenue. Mosby now has protected bike lanes, and we think that we can involve folks in the cycling community to help us create a walking and a cycling path that would go through the tree line. There's a significant angle of the hills that run down to 18th and then down to Coulter. But within the middle of each one is a flat space that could be utilized for a pathway. So it could be a little urban parks within sight of downtown Richmond.
So one more follow-up question. I guess one is your question to the committee. Are you proposing to lease this land for this purpose for some period of time? I guess at some point there's a transaction.
I'm proposing that y'all surplus it to the city of Richmond, and that they're prepared through conversations with Ms. Robertson and Ms. Newbill and others. Obviously I don't control or speak for them, but there's significant support, particularly with Ms. Robertson and Ms. Newbill, about the city taking on this property. Chris Frelke, the director of Parks and Rec, has been aware and involved with this thought process for the last 4 years, or since he's been here. So our proposal, or the proposal that I'm making as a citizen, is that the school board consider surplusing this land so that we can flip the switch, utilize it more to support the RPS community and the greater Richmond community, and do that by the fact that the city would control it. One element that's important.
I wanted to ask because, I appreciate your enthusiasm. It sounds like a lot of good ideas, and I just wanted to make sure whatever you were proposing got articulated well, so everybody understood.
See Ms. Burke and then Ms. Tedesco also has a question.
Ms. Tedesco is next. She was before Ms. Ridgely.
I defer to.
No, I don't defer. Robert's Rules of Order. I don't defer. Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, thank you, Rick, for sharing this and for your continued advocacy for RPS. Please don't take my questions I'm about to ask as any opposition to this proposal generally. This is just trying to better understand the ownership. So unlike other properties that we've been talking about on this call, because this land would not be sold as part of the surplus back to the city, RPS would not benefit financially from the sale of anything. And so what we're really talking about, it appears, is the repurposing of currently RPS owned, knowing that we don't really own anything, but RPS owned land for use primarily by RPS students. And given that you yourself are not the funder, it sounds like Parks and Rec or the city would be funding much of this revitalization of this area. I'm curious why RPS would be cut out and not just funding come directly to RPS for the revitalization of this area, and all of the things that you're talking about would not go through Parks and Rec, who is a wonderful partner to us, and we work with them on many other things, but instead would be organized by RPS such that the athletics, the field would always be first available to MLK and to the preschool, and then of course to the community like other RPS property. I'm just having a hard time understanding why RPS would surplus this versus if there is funding out there through CIP dollars or something like that, that we not just work collaboratively to build out this vision as RPS as the anchor. Can you kind of talk me through why would RPS give up this land?
Based on what you just said, I don't know why you would.
Okay, all right, then I think, yeah, okay.
The folks that used to be that I was talking with didn't look at it like that. My intent from the beginning is that we have an amazing opportunity to create experiential opportunities and social development opportunities in these many acres for the 4,000 people that live in the general area of it and the 250,000 people that are going to live in Richmond. Because of any number of reasons that have, we can look in a lot of different directions, but at this point, to date, RPS hasn't articulated an interest like you just did. I would love to work and help you do what you just said you wanted to do, and that certainly is a lot cleaner and easier than even the simple process that I was looking to do of creating this outline. But certainly, like you mentioned, because of the complexity of the splitting the property and whatever, it makes a lot of sense for RPS to do it. So I'm fine with that.
It's super helpful. And then my last question, and then of course defer to Mrs. Burke. In your conversations you mentioned with Mrs. Robertson and Chair Newbill, have there been conversations already about allocating dollars to Parks and Rec for this work that could be redirected to RPS to be able to complete it ourselves, or would that be still the next step? Is there funding available for these ideas?
No funding currently, but it's we did ask for Ms. Robertson, and it's my understanding that she did put in some funding, a funding request to try to deal with the issue with the fields, the flooding issue with the fields. But we've presented to her, because it's in the 6th district, both a $75,000 amount, which was we didn't expect would get approved, particularly in this budget, but a $75,000 amount has been put out there, and DPU and DPW, or DPU and Parks and Rec, have engaged an outside third-party contractor to make recommendations for the work that needs to be done around the baseball fields. And then we've presented a budget that was presented by Virginia State University for the various programming ideas for the greenhouse, et cetera, which was a little over $50,000, which we've also presented to Ms. Robertson. But that wasn't looked to be funded. That was mostly just to know that it was out there. Michelle, I think that this is a grant magnet. However it gets worked out, I think that Boys and Girls Clubs and Peter Paul and Next Up and go down the line of organizations that could benefit from being involved with this. I again can't speak for VSU, but I think you'll find if you ask them that they're very excited about the opportunity for both their undergraduate and graduate students from the School of Agriculture to be able to intersect with families. Certainly, we've learned over the last year and a half the incredible need for local foods and the importance of food in general. And again, I think that however it gets done, it's an incredible opportunity for y'all to create an outdoor classroom for folks at MLK Middle School from a STEM perspective that will be world class.
Thank you.
Michelle, did you have anything further?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Burke.
Thank you so very much. And I see that Dr. Harris Muhammad has joined us. Great. Hi, Rick. How are you?
Yeah, I'm beautiful. It's a beautiful day.
Excellent. Rick and I have known each other for years, and he's been most supportive of so many projects throughout the city of Richmond, particularly the 7th District, the East End. Even though the ML King building is in the 6th District, it's still the East End. And I appreciate always his, especially what he continues to do yearly with the Dr. ML King committee that he has. I don't know whether it's a foundation, but he always has a big event at ML King. And that's when I really got acquainted with that property behind the school, and also under the bridge per se, which is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful area, and it's kept clean now. Many, many possibilities there. And he shared his vision per se about use under the bridge, the ML King Bridge, which would be, it sounds great. But my concern is, first of all, thank you so much. And Mr. Daskell, you're pretty much moving in the same direction as I am. I would really, 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 I love the idea. I love the idea of Virginia State Agricultural Department, which my dad used to work there for years between Virginia Tech and Virginia State. So I have a lot of history there when it was Virginia State, it's Virginia State College, okay, in agriculture. They have so many great programs there. Also, I like the idea of bringing in the community. What my concern is, number one, as we move forward, we're thinking about funding, but we don't have anything in mind per se. There may be a possibility that Richmond Public Schools could work with you in partnership in terms of developing your vision. I'd much rather have something in place that's a sure go-to, because it has not been presented to the administration that I'm aware of. But I'd hate to see the property go to Parks and Rec, and then it's just sitting there like it is now, and it's a beautiful piece of property. No, I'm not in favor of houses being there. I'm not in favor of mixed income families being there. Our children need green spaces. And what you're proposing with the agriculture piece sounds awesome. However, my concern is there something that we can do in partnership, which the city has already stated, and Richmond Public Schools work very well together. So is it necessary that we surplus this property?
No.
Or is it necessary that we move forward together on behalf of our children in that area, particularly our children in ML King area? And I'll share this with you also right now, because of a lot of the activity that's going on in that area. And I know Eastview is really on the rise of a rejuvenation period. And persons there want green spaces and beyond the Parker Park or whatever it is. But my question to you is, has there been an opportunity to connect with Richmond Public Schools and I would like to be a part of that, and I'm sure that I can't speak for Dr. Harris Muhammad, but who wouldn't want to develop that? Because I thought the property was already Parks and Rec because of the little hut in the back where Parks and Rec. So apparently one time, one era.
Thought it was too, Cheryl.
Say what?
They thought it was too. About a year and a half of the back and forth on this was because Parks and Rec was confident that they owned the baseball fields and the land where the tennis courts used to be.
But they weren't using it. They had no programs there. Yeah, that's the part. They had it. I mean, they thought they had it, and they were free to use it, but they didn't do anything with it.
Correct.
So this is an opportunity for our children throughout the East End, starting right there at the ML King.
I agree. I
School.
know it's not normal.
Not every day, but I also know that safety is an issue.
Well, it is, but it's more of a perceived issue than an actual issue, and we have police and sheriffs that want to be a part of that. I'm completely changing my proposal in the middle of the meeting and saying that Richmond Public Schools should consider the incredible opportunities that it has with land that it already owns, that nobody has to do anything with, and I would love to help in any way possible, and that it's clean and easy, and I just didn't know that y'all wanted it.
We didn't know. And I must say this, when we took up asphalt at Chimborazo School, Rick was there every Saturday helping to plant the gardens that are still there. So he's a man of his word. And I would just love to see, we don't have enough green spaces in the East End.
Right.
We don't. We really do not.
And
so that's a beautiful piece of land.
Oh, it's incredible. And now with everything that's happening down to Oliver Hill Way, it's not just the back end of
Yeah.
everything, it's a part of it. And as I explained, we can utilize the area and the trees. It's a much better idea for RPS to just keep it. So I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to present
Well, we're gonna,
that in
if
a
it's okay with you,
backward foot.
Jonathan, let's hold him to that and let's get this ball rolling.
Yes,
This is
ma'am.
perfect. This is perfect timing too. Don't you think, Michelle, Bobby, Ms. Rizzi, Dr. Harris Muhammad? Perfect timing. Let's do this for our children. Let's roll. I thought it was the Parks and Rec property. I had no idea until he brought this to our attention. So that's what true partnerships are about. Conversations, collaboration, and reaching consensus. Thank you, Rick. You know
Okay,
how to
thank you.
find me.
Yes, ma'am.
Richard, I think you were waiting for an opportunity to ask a question.
Oh, I just wanted to ask Paul, that small little square section is not really that connected to the rest. I just drove by there today. It's super sunny. Would that be a possibility for rezoning the area, subdividing it and using that maybe for some houses?
They really struggled to be able to build on it, Richard.
Oh, okay, you mentioned that earlier. It's because of some sewage.
But I think that there's, well, yeah, it's the angles of the land. It's some beyond my pay grade. But
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
there
the
were.
square spot is not as square as it looks from above, or not as
Yeah.
flat.
oh yeah, no, it's very hilly, and again, there's a large dent in the middle.
Yeah.
That's kind of how.
If I recall correctly, it was the Boys and Girls Club. Yeah, some of the challenges pertain to settling. I think the soil just didn't accommodate it. At least that's what I was told.
But I think it's an opportunity for RPS to do something creative, again, with a tot lot idea, or certainly there's a lot of growing capacity on the hill, maybe with different native species, and with some good minds thinking about it, it's definitely something that RPS can take advantage of, and it's already fenced.
Ms. Rizzi, you had another question.
Yeah, so I mean, one question, I don't know if I can crosstalk this way, but like, Michelle, or do we have the capacity to do this? Do we have staff, and can RPS bill parks?
No, we similarly don't have any identified dollars for this work, but I think that I think that's comparable that the city and Parks and Recs did not either, but it could be something that we tee up in our CIP list, or as the board has just approved the new facilities assessment, we want that to be comprehensive to look at outdoor spaces, science labs, auditoriums, the full gamut of what it takes to have a modern, beautiful building. And so something like this could be included in that assessment for then the board to appropriately prioritize over the next, I'm making this up, 2 to 5 years. But no, we do not currently have any money identified for this project.
And
Ms. Rizzi, the good opportunity with this is that it has good bones,
Right.
and it's
Right.
able to be used
Start there.
immediately. We've been able to bring in a variety of different community folk that would see value in wanting to be a part of it. One of the people from DPU was also a baseball coach, and so he was really excited about it. The Squirrels are friends of ours. VCU Athletics are friends of ours. The Squirrels put the tops on the dugouts back with this charity, and Parney's been a part of, and Nutsy and Natasha have been a part of our I Have a Dream festivals. VCU Athletics, I think we can involve them. And again, I think that there's a lot of people in the East End community that would want to be a part of this. Not saying that it wouldn't be great to find some CIP dollars and a nice donation from a major foundation, but we can start working on it immediately. And by doing it the way we're talking about, there's no thought about, oh, we got to get the lawyers together and get this and get a resolution and whatever. We just start thinking about it.
Okay. Yeah, and you're making me miss my grandmother. She was a longtime Churchill resident. She died at 98 and would have been able to completely tell us about that Parker Field reference and the Lee Viaduct. But yeah.
Wow.
I see Dr. Harris Muhammad
Yeah,
had an obligation at the top of the hour, but I understand she had to present at another meeting, but she's joined us and she has a question.
Good evening, everyone. It's so good to see all of you. I do have a question, and this may be a premature question, but we're going to find out. Will we need to begin, when we start this process, whatever that process looks like, a memorandum of understanding? Because what I'm hearing is RPS is going to be the direct partner with Rick Technolo's foundation or community to
I'm
make.
not a foundation. I'm just a guy.
Okay, the guy, the person. But will we need a MOU drafted to outline some things, or I'm new to this. I'm becoming more familiar with this project. Like Ms. Burke, very excited when it was presented to me, and I read about it, and I think it's great for our children to have outdoor greenery space for outdoor classrooms and many, many educational opportunities for them. But I'm still learning this project. So if my questions have already been answered during a previous process, I apologize in advance. I just don't know the answers.
Well, I appreciate your question. And again, in this case, I'm presenting an idea as a citizen, but that citizen also has been talking with a lot of entities that would maybe be the folks that you would have an MOU with, including even Parks and Rec, but certainly Virginia State College of Agriculture. I would want to help out in a way that RPS felt was supportive, but at this point, it would be probably a situation where your community engagement folks and a lot of the connections that you currently have, you would just look to expand those connections to be able to incorporate their use of the space.
Can I throw out
Follow-up question, Mr. Young?
Please.
Okay, so you as a citizen, and again, I apologize because I just don't know the players in this game right now, in this one. So we have Virginia State at the table, Parks and Rec. And so the funding, if this is gonna move along, would come, is it solely on Richmond Public Schools? Ms. Adesco talked about CIP. I'm very new to this discussion.
Yes, I understand. We would ultimately come up with a plan for the things that would require money, and it could be that there be some fundraising that would go through RPS. I would like to think and expect that the city would come forward with funding, because everybody that's been talked to has been very supportive of this idea. Certainly anyone interested, including RRHA, for the folks that we would be impacting in this area. This is a major swath of people in the East End that live around it. So I'd like to think that both from a governmental perspective, as well as from connections that RPS already has, as well as the fact that the city, or pardon me, the community would see value in this, that once we define what we need to find money for, that we'll start going looking for it. But there is no money out there right now.
Okay, final question, I believe I have. So when you're talking about fundraising, and this is directly going to positively impact our students in Richmond City Public Schools, particularly in the East End, could it be possible for the Richmond Educational Foundation, the Richmond Public Schools Educational Foundation, to have a seat at the table?
I would, yes, ma'am, most
Okay.
definitely. Yeah.
I'm asking questions because as I'm listening, things are drawing to my mind, but thank you for having the forethought and the vision for this project. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Giat, I believe, has a question.
Yeah, just so one general thought is, since the funding is undetermined and it could come from private sources too, not just the city or RPS, perhaps an entity could be formed that could have a license agreement with RPS for this portion. It's a revocable license agreement for this portion of land. And that way the entity could collect money from private donations as well to help fund this, assuming the idea has momentum and takes hold. And if certain criteria aren't met over time, RPS can revoke the license agreement. There's no conveyance of land through a lease or anything else. And that way RPS is protected. And but if the goals are met and the funding is raised, then the venture can proceed. Just an idea. It's
No,
kind of
it's a good idea. My thoughts in the previous idea is that we would create a Friends of MLK Unity Park that would become a subcomponent of Richmond and be able to take advantage of Richmond's 501c3 capacity to raise money. We could do the same thing in this concept as well. It would just be a matter of RPS recognizing the Friends of MLK Park and drawing up the agreement as you define with membership from RPS folks on the board. That's easy to do, and that makes a lot of sense. Ultimately, however this goes, I certainly understand that RPS has a whole lot of other things on its plate and will for any short or long period of time, and I'm not looking to put something else on there. It's mostly that I think that if we think about this from a community development standpoint, that RPS can play a role in introducing us to others that want to support these kinds of ideas, and we'll work under the rules that y'all provide, and we'll have a shared vision as to where we're trying to go.
Are there any additional questions, recommendations, observations relevant to Martin Luther King proposal? We're a few minutes past when we were supposed to adjourn, so I appreciate everyone's patience. Ms. Collins, I see that Steve Pancham joined us. Just for the purpose of the minutes, want to make sure we acknowledge him and convey our gratitude to all of our participants this evening. But any other or additional thoughts?
I'm excited about the possibilities.
Yeah, I like the possibilities. Quick thought that it's either the RPS Foundation or people within RPS taking a lead on this, or the Park Service. It seems like the Park Service might be gaining more momentum towards, accepting funds and doing big park projects. So not that RPS doesn't care or know a lot about the students, but it really is an executive function. So, I don't know. I think the RPS Foundation could do it exactly right. Add it to the Altria building. This is something, let's think about parks for schools. Think about, kids being outside, so that the average teacher or administrator doesn't worry about it, but it's RPS Foundation.
I've worked with Ty Tupke on this in the past. And so the RPS Foundation's already been involved in previous I Have a Dream festivals, and Ty is very aware of everything we're trying to do over there. So I can't speak for him, but I think that I think that's a wonderful connection, and that we can find through the Education Foundation folks that see a lot of value in what we're trying to do.
For the because this is a little bit out of our wheelhouse in this committee, do we need to? Is anyone prepared to identify any recommended next steps so that we don't have this conversation tonight and then nothing materializes thereafter?
Can I make a suggestion that
I'm-
Michelle and I have a conversation based on these comments, and that she gets to decide where we take it from here?
Well, I don't want to take that much autonomy. What I was going to recommend is we put forth a $6-point-something million CIP request to the city. The city's current allocation for RPS is $2.1 million. So the board is already going to have to cut $4 million of proposed CIP plans for next year and reprioritize that list. I recommend that we add the MLK project at a currently unidentified amount, even if it's seed money, to that discussion. And then the board at that time can prioritize if this is a capital project that it wants to take on in the short term or in the slightly longer term. It's also possible that given the outdoor classroom implications that some of the federal dollars might be allowable for such. We do not have the parameters for that yet, but those would be my two initial next steps for the board's consideration. But I agree it can move out of this committee.
Ms. Burke, are you agreeable to that?
Absolutely. You must have seen me shake my head. And I was thinking from the very beginning in terms of this is an opportunity for us now because of the COVID piece, the pandemic, and the funds that are coming our way, and being a true believer in outdoor classrooms, outside classrooms. It's an opportunity to get started. I see us being able to get enough funds at some point, maybe not tomorrow, Rick.
Oh, no.
Maybe not in July or August. All right, because we're just coming back from a pandemic and we're just getting our children back in school in September. So it's a lot going on. So we're going to need patience there, but I think it's a great time to move forward because of the funds that will be coming our way, and they have to be used within a certain time frame. Of course, we can't use all the funds for that, but as Michelle stated, it'll be an opportunity to get us off the ground and get started. And once different organizations see you get started, people automatically do come your way to support if they see it's beneficial for our children and our community. Many of the people you mentioned, Rick, are persons who will roll up their sleeves and get right in there and pull it off. And there are many people who have the dollars who aren't going to roll up their sleeves, but they will back us financially. So I think this is a perfect opportunity, healing from COVID, from the pandemic, providing safe spaces, clean spaces, spaces of fun, spaces where people can enjoy nature and be outside. I can't think of anything better at this time for that particular community to enjoy.
Well, even one better than that, then the plan is on Saturday, August 28th, the 58th anniversary of Dr. King's speech in 1963. We're going to have the 2021 I Have a Dream Festival, including all over the footprint and underneath the bridge. And I welcome Richmond Public Schools to use the event to do anything it wants to do to inform the community. But it's an opportunity for us as we start to get out of the summer and into the fall to tell people what we're looking to do with this space that's always been owned by RPS and is now going to get used in a different way.
And thank you so much for continuing with that. I've attended that in the past, and he does have Nutsy and big band sounds, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So I hope persons can support that as well and to see the property. So thank you, Rick, so much for all that you do and continue to do. And I'm so glad that you were flexible enough to know that you just want it done and that we can work together to make this happen. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan.
My pleasure. And Rick, I saw a note from Dr. Harris Mohammed. She just inquired if you could restate that date again.
Oh, the date is Saturday, August 28th. And again, that's the anniversary of the speech. And our hope is next year is Sunday, August 28th. So we're hoping to try to, at least over the next 2 years, use this as a way to be a springboard into the fall for RPS and for Richmond. And again, as we are right now with the pandemic, I'm not sure what we're going to be able to do on August 28th, but I guarantee you that we're going to be able to do something out there, and we're going to maximize that. But everybody's going to be starting to be thinking about the future, and we want them to start thinking about this space as a part of the future.
Very, very good. I think that's a perfect place for us to adjourn this evening. I apologize, folks, for going a little longer than we were scheduled, but appreciate everyone's patience and look forward to seeing everyone shortly. Thank you all.